Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome to another Made by Folk live stream. I'm very excited to have another amazing guest with us today. And today, joining us live from Berlin is lettering artist, educator, and author Martina Flor. Let me get Martina online and see that we have everything set up properly. So, Martina, I think we can all see you at least already. Let's see if we can hear you as well.
Hello, everyone.
Perfect. I can at least hear you, so let's hope that's a good sign. Martina, thank you very much for taking some time out of your very busy schedule to chat to us today.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk a little bit about letters and share some insights on my work. And
Yeah, amazing. I think I've been trying to get you to come on the show for about a year and a half, but something always happened that kind of got in the way of us finding some time that suited both of us, I think.
like multiple lockdowns where we had kids at home and
Yeah.
like life essentially in this pandemic. But yeah, but I'm really happy that we finally made it. And I'm also looking forward to chat today about show you a little bit about my process, and later on I think we're gonna go onto Instagram to sort of answer some questions.
Yes.
So that's gonna be fun. Yeah,
Definitely. So anybody joining us on the live stream now, you can already post questions in the chat, and we'll try and go through them if we have some time towards the end of the live stream. But most of the questions that we'll answer we'll do on Instagram live right after this, so probably about 5:30 our time. So yeah, keep the questions coming in while we go through this. So Martina, first of all, thanks for taking the time to put a little presentation together. I do always appreciate the effort it takes to do that, even though it's work that you've done. Sitting down and sort of thinking about what you would like to talk about. I think I asked you just to kind of give us an insight into a couple of projects that you're really proud of that maybe show like the diversity of your portfolio, since you do so many different things.
yeah. Actually, this is something I love. Talking about and reflecting about. I speak the I share my process with. In my talks, and I share my process during my classes. I'm super passionate about the process of creating something, and I think it's so essential for us designers to understand our process. And so this is definitely my thing to talk about, and I have a couple of things that I can share with you today.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I mean, without further ado, I can get you into full screen, and we can get your presentation online, and then we can take it from there.
That's great, yeah.
All right. Well, let me get your presentation on here, so you can go full screen, and whenever you're ready.
I got it. Good. So hello everyone again. Thank you, Glenn, for having me. And this is me. This is Martina Flor. So I have a studio for lettering and type in Berlin. I started my studio 10 years ago. I'm originally from Argentina. I moved to Berlin to start fresh career in lettering, and and I started my studio here, right? So I started my studio, I started my family here, I studied a lot of things in this city, so I'm really attached to this city, and I love the place that I got to do all these things. And in my work, I get to draw lettering and type for clients, but also I always say that I love doing what I do. I really love drawing letters. It's a fascinating world, and I'm so happy that I found this. I don't give it for granted. I know that finding something you are very happy about and you feel that you have a talent for is not something easy. And I found it 10 years ago or 11 years ago. And and I went all the way into it. And I say that I love doing what I do. And I also love sharing what I know. And this is really part of my identity. Like I do art, I do lettering, I draw letters, but I also teach others to do it. And both things, doing and sharing or teaching, are part of what I do. They are like inseparable. So when Glenn invited me to do this live stream, he asked me like, what are we gonna speak about? So I told you, Glenn, like I think we can speak about telling stories with letter forms, because this is what I essentially do. This is my way of sort of defining the work I do. And what I find, every piece of lettering or every piece of typography tells a story. Every letter form sort of kicks ideas into your mind or reminds you of something. And what I love, or what I find really fascinating about the world of drawing letters, or the craft I'm into, is that the text, what you're giving shape to, and the shape are sort of counterforms or counterparts for the message. So the way you say something and what you say are bound together. So I can say love in a very sweet way, in an extra sweet way, like in this case.
Martina, are you already showing individual slides? Because we're still seeing your first slide.
Really? Okay. Sorry. Okay.
No, it's all good.
I am actually. Right
now we are. Now we can see the love word. Yes.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So,
and are you in full screen?
Yes, I am.
Weird. We only see. Yeah, we only see the presentation window, not the full screen. But we can definitely see what you're doing.
Let me see if I do this.
No, it's still the
okay, let me just go full screen on this one. Like, go a bit closer here.
Yeah, that'll work.
So do you get? Okay. So
the usual technical issues is standard for any live stream, I think.
Yeah, of course. So I guess you get to see my slides, right? So
yes. Now we can see love.
Now they're hidden.
Yeah.
So good. So I tell stories with letter form. So I can say love. You can say love in a lot of different ways. In this case, I chose to say love in a very extra sweet way. I use colors that also that are not like you will expect to find in or related to love, right? Like, so all the things that you already have in your mind that are, that have to do with love, the idea of something that is sweet and fluffy and, you feel like hugging, all those things or all those concepts that you already have in your mind, I work with those and I create a piece of typography with that, right? So let me just go to my next slide. Oh, okay. Now I cannot see. How can I go through the next slide? Of course. Let me see how I get back to show all tabs. Show tab bar.
Maybe when we selected your screen share, because we selected a window, maybe that's why it's only showing the window rather than your full screen.
So now, like, the thing is that I cannot see. Okay, I can see my slides now. Okay, so right. The same way that I can speak about love, I can say my favorite bad word, very delicate way. So, I can also, when working for clients, I can also, sort of tell you how a certain product feels on your skin. So I can make you feel stuff with typography, and I can speak about certain concepts in a very specific way, right? So I can speak about money in a very strong way, using gold and bold letters. So I normally illustrate the power of storytelling through lettering with book covers, essentially. Like I feel that, in a book cover, you sort of have to tell an entire story that is perhaps written in 300 pages. You have to say that in just one cover, right? So you have to condensate that content into letter forms and illustrations and decorative elements and composition. So the story that I'm telling here and the people I'm speaking to in this book cover is very different from the people I'm trying to reach out to here and the story I'm telling here, right? Of course, there's a lot of things that play a role here: the color, the illustration, the decorative elements. But, in lettering, the letter shapes are my starting point. So this is where I start, and then I build around this, right? So I will start by just getting an idea of which letter shapes I want to use and whether those letter shapes sort of tell the story I want to tell, and then I will build everything around that. So let me tell you a little bit about how I go about creating something. This is a recent artwork that I created for a magazine. This is American Magazine 50 to 80. So they assigned me to create an opener for this story about Kimball Musk. And he's a food entrepreneur in the US. So he's the brother of Elon Musk.
Oh, the brother. The way I was about to ask, are they related? I presumed they were.
Yeah. So well, a little bit the briefing was to create, since he calls himself a food evangelist, the briefing was to create something that has to do with the idea of like sacred and, I think the art director specifically asked me to take inspiration on manuscripts, on old manuscripts, right? But since this happened, or this assignment came during the pandemic, he said but it should be super uplifting, so make it look, take some inspiration from that, but it should be super forward looking. So that was a really nice brief to work with. So this is where I would start. These are my scribbles on paper. And in these scribbles, I will just decide which kind of letter forms I'm going to use, what is the composition going to be roughly. So here I have 2 ideas for a composition, and you can already get an idea of, I'm working with, I will be working with fractured letter shapes, right?
Yeah.
So this is where I will start. So from those thumbnail sketches, I will go onto a bigger sketch and try to get the composition right. So on the left, you have one of the options that I sketch. On the right, you have another option, which is, it has a different composition, a different organization of the elements in the space. But essentially, I'm working with the same elements, trying to figure out what the composition is going to be.
And how many sketches do you go through when you're at this stage? Do you try and sort of exhaust many options, or do you already have a feeling of where you're going?
I would say that now my process has become very efficient. I would say with the time you become much more efficient at knowing, okay, I know that this composition works better than that kind of composition if I have to do this project. If I'm doing a logotype, I know that certain things are leading to a more successful result than others. So the process becomes more efficient. But I would normally just work on 2 sketches and then decide for one of them and try to polish or try to solve most of the problems in the sketch. This is what I normally do. That I solve most of the problems in the sketch. This is what I will send to the client. And once the client is approves on that, so it's in this sketch they can get an idea of what's coming. Like, okay, she's gonna work with fracture letter forms, and she's gonna work with some sort of like gradient color scheme. But what I like about showing this to the clients is that nothing is set on stone. So it's like I have a lot of room afterwards to come up with new things and tweak things around, right? So they sort of approve on a direction, and then I can have my own creative freedom, sort of, right?
Yeah. Do you get to see the photography up front? Is that part of the brief, or is that kind of working in tandem?
Oh yeah. Sorry. Definitely. Like normally I get as if I'm working with photography, I normally the art director will probably be already like parallelly doing the lettering with me and doing the photography with the photographer. So I get like some sort of like mock-up, like ugly mock-up that I never show in presentations because and then at the end, right at the end, I get like the final illustration or the final photography.
Great.
Yeah. So this is where I discuss with the client the direction, and then I move on to digitizing. I do digital lettering. All my results, essentially most of the results I deliver are digital, and I love like the power that I have with digital vectors, right? That because I can decide exactly the shape of those letters, whereas by working by hand, you always have this level of imprecision, or you're not as precise as you are with vectors. So I will move gradually into something a bit more elaborated. So trying different color schemes, adding decorative elements, and and adding shadows. And then this turns into, combines with the photography and turns into a real product, right? So
so good.
This is like the little bit like the process of every assignment that I get. And you can see here, this is also a cover for a magazine. I also start with sketch. Once the client approves this, so once the client approves this, I move on to digitizing, a very rough digitization, and then I add layers of embellishment to that. And
oh wow,
this is how it turns into into a piece of lettering that tells a story, right? So all the elements that are here have to do with communicating what the client or what the brand is trying to communicate there, right? So if you're speaking about something that is the best, then how can you make those letter shapes look like amazing so that they communicate, like everyone who reads those that text can understand what you're trying to say, right?
Yeah. And how detailed is a brief for a project like this? I mean, are they already prescribing that they want something that kind of feels like it has some depth, like it has a three-dimensional quality, or is that something that you have you can have a lot of influence on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I normally, I've been doing this for a long time now, and I feel that I have already like a bulk of work that clients can refer to. And whenever a client approaches me, I just ask them to refer to something in my portfolio. Most of the clients that come with an assignment, they probably come because they have seen something from me that is what resonates with them. So already knowing that is like halfway to success, I feel. And of course, like every text is different, and every shape at the end is drawn from scratch, and then like it's a new piece of lettering, right? But already having an idea of what the client wants to communicate by providing a reference from your portfolio is is really helpful.
Yeah.
So these are more, I would say, like, just to keep it short, like this is more like a custom lettering kind of work where actually with lettering or letter design you can go onto things that are a bit more technical, and I would like to just wrap up with this project, which is like a logotype redesign where there's other things that play a role, and it's not so, let's say, like there's not so much of like self-expression or creativity, but there's more a work of understanding what the needs are, and being very conscious of the reader and what is good for the brand, right?
Yeah.
So this is and a logotype redesign is really hard because they don't want a new logotype. They just want their logotype, but nicer. So it's like they don't want to really let go to their logotype. But, of course, if they are coming to you, it's because there's problems in their logotype and they want to have something that is more sustainable over time, right? So this is an ice cream store here in Berlin, which is like very well known. I was so happy when they approached me because everyone I told that I was assigned with this logotype redesign, they came to me and they said like, "Hey, it's Hokey Pokey, right?" It's like everyone knows this ice cream store. And so that was a big pressure on me because I had to do something nice. And actually the first thing when you have a logotype redesign is that you need to assess what are the problems, right? Mm-hmm. Because the client normally knows, hey, there's something wrong about the logotype, but they don't know exactly what that is. So the first thing I look at is like the overall picture, like what is the shape of that logotype, right? And you can see that on the left, so on the right is our redesign, and on the left is their original logotype. So you can see that the type or the typography is very unstable, sort of like it's the shape of that is like not very even. And on the right, we always try to like create a more or less like a harmonious shape so that all the parts are kind of balancing each other. And then we look at rhythm. So this is more like to explain the client, like what will we be fixing or trying to improve. Yeah. So here you can see rhythms that are not working quite well. So if you see the H and the O, they seem to be very close to each other, and the K, E, Y, they're like, this is like two separate words, right? Like you have the H and the O, they have a one rhythm. They have a rhythm, and the key E, Y, it has another rhythm, right? Yeah. So the letters are wider, and this is what we try to fix on the redesign. So the same happens with the capitals. They have different heights, so that we also try to improve that. And there's other things like the legibility, for instance, of Ice Patisserie at the top. So we try to improve that in the logotype, or we did improve that actually in the redesign. So there's other issues that have to do with elements that are competing with each other. So if you look at the blue shade here, you can see that the shadow and the letter forms are like kind of competing with each other. And then how to integrate this illustration, which was really important for the client, into the logotype redesign without being two separate things, right? On one side the illustration, and on the other side the logotype. So, and then there's there's a little bit of work of figuring out how this is gonna look, like integrating illustration with typography. How do you integrate that? So these are some tests that we did. Also the shape of that logotype. You can see here like some experiments we did, and how that looks. And once we decide for one shape, overall shape, then it's a lot about like technical stuff, like whether the type or the letter forms are sitting in which part of the curve. You can see here that there's a curve with a green and a red line.
Yeah.
So we sort of try to see where these letters are gonna sit, if they're gonna sit right at the bottom of that wave, or right at, like these are very technical stuff, but it's what occupies our days, actually.
Yeah, it's always fascinating to see. So wait, which one did you? Wait, I'm trying to figure out which one you actually went for. So you went with the option A in that curve that you showed earlier, or so there's the middle.
We went with this one in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not too curvy.
Which actually you can recreate the curve a little bit better here in the first one.
Yeah.
But the first two letters look quite funky.
You're right.
So we decided to go for this one.
Great.
For the one in the middle, yeah. And yeah, then there's like detail work, which has to, this is visible for us, and we know it makes a difference. But yeah, this is things that are also very technical, but have to do with the finalization of the lettering piece, right? Or of the logotype.
Yeah, it's that attention to detail that makes that really makes a good job stand out.
Absolutely, and it does make a difference. Like I think like those details that we often say, like, well, no one will see that, but we can see that. Actually, everyone can see that. Like I think that if you can see it, someone else can see it. So I think that if you see it, you should fix it.
Yeah, definitely.
And we did a monogram for them. So this is like the package we delivered to that client, like a redesign, and and this is actually it's weird because we are so specialized in what we do that and I speak about we because I have a small team, and they normally hire us just to do the letter forms or the logotype redesign, but actually, you cannot think of a logotype isolated from a system or from a branding. So we normally like also go into the branding, and like at the moment we put our logotype in context. So in one of their applications, we start thinking of branding. So in this case, we started thinking of how the material they use in their products can integrate into the logotype itself. So you can see that the gray lines turn into Cooper here, or that they pick up the color of the packaging. This is
lovely.
Yeah, this is like the biggest question of logotype redesign. Can you actually do it isolated from the context? But this is a little bit our it's always our challenge there.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit about my process.
Awesome.
I hope that insightful.
Yeah, I love always seeing the detail that people go into. It's fascinating. This is, I think, why I like doing this video series so far, is that a lot of the work that you show, I saw this project in particular on your portfolio, but having you talk us through it and actually point out these little details are definitely things that get lost along the way. So it's really nice to hear from the person who designed it, why you considered those details as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so it's so important, like, to actually show that there is this work behind. Like, the moment I show my clients like the amount of process we have to get to this result, they understand our pricing, because they and it's so important. And I want to just say it out loud, because it's so important for us to not for every client, not everyone is a design specialist, and not everyone knows and understands all the work that is behind the things we do.
Yeah.
So I think sharing your process and showing that to your clients is so important, and it makes them understand the value of what you're doing, and and what you're charging for it, right? So it's like, I think it's like also a way for the client to be part of that creation, right?
Yeah.
Like, because they get to understand it.
Definitely. Super important. Well, I hope that when lockdown ends, I can come back to Berlin and the first place I'll go to is Hokey Pokey and have some ice cream.
Definitely. You should go there.
Or do they do ice cream as well? Or do they just do chocolates? I thought I remembered them also.
They do ice cream. Actually, they started with ice cream, and then they started doing all tasty stuff.
Well, I'm looking forward to going back there. Oh, Martina, we've already gone for a half an hour here. So, thank you very, very much for that presentation. Like I said, it was super interesting seeing all those details. I love nerding out about all these little nuances that you might miss occasionally when you just look at somebody's portfolio. So, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And if anyone has any question or want to tell me a comment, just hit me up on Instagram. I will definitely reply to you and get in touch.
Nice one. Well, we'll head over to Instagram now and we'll have our live AMA on our Instagram live. And thank you everybody for watching. If you do want to find out some more about Martina's work, head over to madebyfolk.com. She's plastered over the cover for the next 2 weeks. And you can also head to Martina Flor. Let me get the domain right so I don't say anything wrong here. martinaflor.com. There we go.
That's right.
All right, everybody. Speak to you soon. Martina, I'll see you on the other side. Okay.